Board of Selectmen. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Please let the record show that 4 members are present tonight. We have nothing under appointments or resignations or retirements, nothing under licenses and permits. Announcements, Mr. Conway?
We have one. The Board of Selectmen will conduct a tax classification hearing in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, on Thursday, November 14th, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room in the Norton Municipal Center, 70 East Main Street.
Thank you. Ms. Steele?
Nothing.
Ms. Daly?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, under new business, we have a disclosure by the town manager regarding SMHG participation.
Yeah, this was something that came up at our last board meeting. I guess down the Cape, someone raised an issue. There was a political fight going on between people, and everyone on the board is an employee, and it's like the GIC, its employees from the unions are on the board, but they raised an issue, and the attorneys said, well, to be out of abundance of caution, have disclosures filed because you're an employee who's deciding what you do for health insurance. So you have a financial, none of us have ever done it before, but
Yeah.
they said we suggest that we file
Yeah, it's
it.
probably wise to do it.
And as you know, all the different groups, they're all done the same way. This is the original.
Okay, and do you need us to sign? Yep, okay. So we need to take a vote to...
And want me to just read it to you?
Sure.
My duties require me to participate in a particular matter, and I may not participate because of a financial interest that I am disclosing here. I participate in deliberations and votes that affect the benefits and cost of health insurance, including the following: co-payments, deductibles, tiered provider network co-payments, and other cost-sharing plan design. I participate in deliberations and votes that affect the benefits and costs of health insurance.
So you need flex here. Okay. The chair would entertain a motion to determine that the town manager has no conflict of interest in negotiating the health benefits on behalf of the town.
So moved.
Any further discussion?
So, Mike, is this the final form? Because it still has like some of the template information in it, and I see you signed it.
Is it the final form?
Yeah.
It says example.
Like it says, example, please be as descriptive as possible.
Okay, no, that isn't. I will make sure I
Yeah, just...
take up the exam.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
you just went, yeah, a couple, you know, on all of them.
Yep.
So, yeah, we just would revise before we file it.
And what is exactly the financial interest?
What they're saying is, because I get health insurance and I'm voting on health insurance, that could be considered a financial interest.
Is the health insurance that you're afforded as an employee of the town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing beyond that?
No.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to add that in the determination by appointing authority that's specified, that the financial interest is the monthly benefits, health benefits? Or insurance, however we want to put it.
Like two police officers? You might, because you might need to do, you're right, you know what I mean? That's a bit,
You're just looking for a little more detail as
Yes.
to what the nature
Yep.
is, so, about the premiums and co-pays.
Because we say that financial interest isn't substantial, but I think if you quantify it with, it's the receipt of healthcare coverage.
Yep.
Okay, so motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And just shoot it.
Oh, you got that, yep.
Okay, next we have a vote to declare surplus property. Yeah, some information in the packet. So Keith Silver, the highway superintendent, is looking to put 2 John Deere riding lawn mowers and a 1974 Leroy air compressor because parts are no longer available. So put that into surplus property. And then the chief of police has a number of things that looks like that were abandoned or unclaimed that were found in various areas of the town. So these will go on to municipal bid, and we'll get some potential money back, although I'd love to meet the person that purchases the 1974 Leroy air compressor.
I don't know, I'm thinking that there's gonna be some competition for the blue-gray scooter Electron Fusion. Is there, like, there's a lot of bicycles on here. I mean, do we somehow communicate, like, that these items were found?
They put it on their website
Okay.
when they get something.
So it's not like we think somebody, like, grabbed it, dumped it, and then,
How long does Chief keep these things for?
I forget how long he keeps. He keeps them for quite a while.
I was gonna say,
haven't seen one.
in the 3 years, I've
Yeah.
never seen bikes, so this
Right.
is, they're quite a collection here. Chair would entertain a motion to accept the property as presented, move it into surplus.
So moved?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
And I gave you a list, just so you can see, the municipal bid works out so much better. In the old days, we used to just have an auction in the parking lot, and you just sell a car to the highest bidder, and cars were going for like 500, you were lucky if you got $500. And if you look at some of the prices here on these cars, like a 2013 Dodge Charger, $3,950, and I'm sure in 2019, when the police were selling that, it was, I mean, I don't know why people see an interest in them, but it's working out
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
They collect all the money, and they just send us a check.
And what, do we put this in free cash?
It goes all into free cash.
Okay. Next, we have a vote to award a joint purchase of 2019 to 2020 CC rock salt, solar salt, and treated salt.
This is a joint bid. The town of Medfield does the bid
Yep.
for all the area towns, and the prices actually are less than they were last year, so I guess there was a lot of salt left over. The winter wasn't that bad last year, so maybe there's a
Right.
lot left over.
Yeah, something came out today from NOAA saying it was going to be a warmer than average winter, so.
Last year for treated salt, we were paying $71.77. So that's a pretty good drop.
Yeah. Chair would entertain a motion to accept the, or to award the joint purchase of the 2019 to 2020 CC rock salt, solar salt, and treated salt as presented in your packet.
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Next, we have the all-joint meeting. So it looks like we're looking to try to pull together a meeting between school committee, FinCom, Board of Selectmen, or what may be at that point the Select Board. Anyone else in that, Mike?
Has to be voted on. Mr. Flaherty?
That's why I said it may be at that point the Select Board.
No, elected, like election vote,
Oh, it does?
yeah.
No,
I don't think so. I think it just, I think just at the,
the change of, no, it's
Just
just.
at town meeting.
Town meeting,
So why do we have two different articles on? One that says if it's,
one's for charter, one's for bylaws.
that,
right, the charter one says that it has to go through an election.
Is that for the select board one or
I
the,
thought it was for both, because they're both charter.
I thought, one of them it was both, I know, but I thought one was just, we'll be getting
Yeah, we'll be, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think this is just information only. They're proposing Thursday, December 5th at 6:30 at the middle school. So if you could, please shoot Mike an email and let him know of your availability for that evening. Thank you.
Mike, did I copy you on the, I sent my response directly to Sherry. I can flip it back to you, too.
Okay, next we have a vote to accept the cost share reimbursement in an amount up to $1,963 from the Department of Conservation and Recreation Fiscal Year 20 Working Forest Initiative Program regarding the Erickson property.
This is a grant that Jennifer obtained, and this will be, there's 117 acres there on that property off of Bay Road, and she'll hire a forester to do a plan to look at the forest stewardship plan, and, take out stuff that's not supposed to be there, and will hurt the forest, and trim and cut trees where necessary to allow growth, and they'll develop a complete plan for that property. And it will be the same on the next one.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to accept cost share reimbursement in an amount up to $1,963 from the Department of Conservation for the Working Forest Initiative Program for the Erickson property.
Which is not too far from where I used to live on Bay Road.
Bay Road.
On Reebok.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, they're,
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. And similar to that, we have a vote to accept cost share reimbursement in amount up to $1,040 from the Department of Conservation and Recreation Fiscal Year 20 Working Forest Initiative Program for the Camp Edith Reed property. So same deal there as the Erickson property. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second to accept the cost share reimbursement for an amount up to $1,040 for the Camp Edith Reed property. Any further discussion?
I just have one question on the form. Where does it show the specific property that it's for? Like, where does it say? Oh, it's there. It's
right in the
at
top.
It just says
Yep.
Edith Reed Road. Okay, sorry.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, under old business, review and/or vote on zoning articles.
Want to hold off on that because
We're anticipating someone,
one of the petitioners is
Planning
next
commi-
door. Unfortunately, the
Oh,
planning
planning
board's
board.
meeting
Yep,
tonight
okay.
too, so he's there, and then he's going to come over here. So if we can do some of the other stuff, maybe he'll get here.
Yeah, let's move on to review, vote, and revote articles for the October 21st special town meeting and fall annual town meeting.
If we go to the special first, there's two articles that you need to take action on. And the first one is, Renee was right, this is the one that doesn't have to go to a vote.
Oh, yes, the Saturday, right?
Yeah, the other, one, the select board does have to go to a vote because it's a charter amendment.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is the Saturday vote. The only question, the Finance Committee right now voted no action not on this because they're waiting to see what the board wants, what Saturday you want. They didn't want to recommend it with that April 20, the fourth Saturday in April because it would interfere with school vacation week, I think was the main reason, so. And I know you guys had some discussion on it, you didn't set a date yet, so.
Well, which date in April would, or which Saturday in April would be, or could we move it to May?
That was the discussion. Do you
Yeah.
want it to be the first Saturday in May or the first Saturday in April?
2020.
So I believe the charter reads that it has to be held in April.
the only thing,
Yeah, we could, I think, the general laws can be March, April, May, or June. Our charter says April.
So the first Tuesday in April would be April 9th this year. Actually, April 2nd. Any particular,
Do we need to pick a specific day, like a specific date, or can we say?
yeah, it has to be, I think it has to state, like, now it's, what, the third Tuesday in April?
I think you could say
A day in
a
April?
Saturday, well, you want to do it on
Oh,
Saturday,
wait, we're not doing it on
right?
Tuesday, right, yeah.
Yep,
So it would be the 6th.
like on a Saturday
Yeah.
in April, at a date to be determined by the Board of Selectmen at whatever
Yeah.
time.
Or set by the,
Selectmen.
yeah, I'd be okay with that.
I think so.
Mary?
And then that way, because that'll give us the opportunity to look at how the holidays fall, you know, because sometimes Easter creeps in there. And then Patriots' Day, school vacation, like there could be a lot of things. So if we, I don't know, plan to do it prior to the beginning of the year or whenever.
Yeah, I think it needs to be set by.
How's it written in the warrant?
What I saw.
And I think, did Lauren say in her email, as long as you notify, you make the decision by like January 1st
Right.
each year, so people know.
It's in the warrant, though, it shows the fourth Saturday of April. We'd have to amend the,
In the motion.
in the motion. Yep, okay. So, Chair would entertain a motion to
Have that copy.
It's in the back of
to
that.
recommend
No, no.
the Article 1 in the special town meeting warrant
Oh,
specifying a Saturday in April. And so we'll have to work on the motion, but, so we're gonna just not specify a specific Saturday.
Let me just read Lauren's suggestion on that to you, if I can. So she had said, to see if the town will vote to amend Section 5.1 of the general bylaws by deleting the text thereof, requiring the annual town election to occur on the last Tuesday in April, and inserting in its place the following. The annual town election shall be held on a Saturday in the months of April, May, or June, on a date to be established by the Board of Selectmen no later than January 1st preceding.
so I
Just
like
take
that.
out May, May and June.
Yeah, take out April, too.
Yeah, take it all out.
So what do you
No,
think?
I like that.
Yeah.
So you said something, annual town meeting, and this says in here, annual election of officers?
What's
Read what you said. So what's in parentheses under the article
The
says the
annual-
annual election of officers in the town of Norton.
The
But I think
annual
you said
town
annual
election.
meeting. I don't know if that would have to just, if we're just asking to strike the last part and replace it.
Yeah, because it's not town meeting. Yeah.
See what I mean?
Where are you reading that?
Well, I
here
thought
in
that
the-
you read annual town meeting, but in here it says annual election of officers.
That's just in the warrant? or- Okay.
So we'd be looking to recommend that it would now say, the annual town election shall be held on a Saturday in the month of April
Yep.
on a date to be established by the Board of Selectmen no later than the January 1 proceeding.
Is that
So
good?
moved.
Okay.
So motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, now on to Article 5.
Yep.
FinCom voted no action on this.
Right, there was no action needed on that.
So,
And then there's last article.
well, we need to
Yep,
take a
go
vote.
ahead.
So, Chair, entertain a motion to take no action on Article 5 as written in the special town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And the last article is the article to appropriate $140,000, $70,000 for a conceptual layout, and $70,000 for a site selection study for the building committee.
Sue?
You had some.
We were gonna change the language. We're on Article 6, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So we're gonna change Part 2 of Article 6
Yeah, it'll say, so the first 70,000 is to evaluate potential sites for a town hall and a senior center, including all incidental and related expenses, and the other 70,000 is to prepare a conceptual layout and graphical information for presentation to the public.
Oh, okay. Oh, so what you have looks different than what I have.
Well, I'm just reading, taking out those words that we were,
Can you read that again?
yep. So, to see if the town will vote to raise and or appropriate 140,000 from available funds, including but not limited to a transfer from the amount appropriated under Article 12 of the October 23rd, 2017 Fall Annual Town Meeting for the cost of engineering and design for a new town hall senior community center to be used for the following purposes. One, to evaluate potential sites for a town hall and a senior community center, including all incidental and related expenses. And two, to prepare a conceptual layout and graphical information for presentation to the public. Or
And so it ends after public?
to the public, presentation
To the public, yep.
Can I ask a clarifying question, Mike?
Yep.
So under section 1, so if we found a site and we wanted to do some preliminary environmental testing or some geotechnical surveys, that would fall within that article, the way I'm reading it?
Yes.
Because that would be a incidental related
Yep.
expense? Okay. Excellent.
So, yeah, part 2, prepare conceptual layout and graphical information for presentation to the public of a new town hall and senior community center.
Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 6 as read into the record by the town manager.
So moved?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. So that closes out the special. Let's move on to, because we've got some work to do on this one. So, Article 2, separation expenses. Finance Committee recommended $45,000 to be appropriated from free cash.
Which bucks?
Oh, sorry.
Yep, the Finance Committee voted to recommend that article.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 2 on the fall annual town meeting warrant in the amount of $45,000 to be taken from free cash.
So moved?
Second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right. Fiscal year 20 operating budget amendments.
Article 3, the Finance Committee voted to recommend $660,184 from free cash. And do you have the,
Is it, what's it written in the warrant?
as written in that chart?
Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 3 in the fall annual town meeting warrant in the amount of $660,184 to be taken from free cash.
Move for discussion?
Second.
So, motion is second. Any further discussion? Mr. Connell?
Yes. So I believe there was some discussion on the school budget line item. That's less than they had asked for, and with references back to the April town meeting run-up and deferring expenses. So we can just share some thought process as to what led to that shortfall. So I think they had asked for, I think they showed 166,000.
That is 166,000, yep, or 0.05% of the school's budget. So the school budget is 305,000 is the recommendation that the Finance Committee's making to town meeting. And their budget increased 1,111,918 in May, for a total of $1,416,918,000.
Okay. So that's all well and good. I just don't understand why that this is less than what they were asking for.
Nobody got everything they wanted. We're fortunate that we had a large amount of free cash this year, but next year, we're probably not going to have as much as we had this year. We upped our excise tax by $500,000 this year, and we had $660,000 new growth from the Elm Island project. So next year, you could take out $1 million at least of free cash, and we won't have. So we have to put some money, away, and we have to approve what's sustainable. And as I said to the Finance Committee, if you look at that,
How much did Dooley do?
our school budget is just under 30 million, and it's going up $1,416,918. Mansfield, that has 1,400 more students than us, and a budget that's almost 52 million, went up under 1.2 million. So, I mean, it's a pretty significant increase that the schools are getting, and largest that, since I've been here, probably the largest ever. So,
So is the cost per student the same between Norton and Mansfield?
no, but we can't make up for what happened in years past. They may have had an override or something in the past, I don't know.
Okay, so I think that undermines the whole point of what we're getting versus what we're getting. If they got an override to jump them ahead of the curve.
But they also have a lot more, I mean, we just, going up what we've gone up, that's a significant amount for this town. And something that we have to look at what's sustainable in the future.
That I understand. I don't see the direct comparison between Mansfield. I don't think that's really has any bearing on what Norton's problem is. And I went back today and I was watching one of the earlier finance committees from before the annual town meeting, and the schools had agreed to defer $335,000 to the fall with the assumption that that would be fully funded. And I understand they're coming back looking for more.
Well, no one should assume that they're coming back with the assumption, as I tell our departments that don't get fully funded in May, don't assume that you're getting the money in October. Run your budget as if you're not going to have that money, and if you get it, you get it. But be prepared that, if fire and police, if you have shifts that need to be filled, don't fill them all unless you get that money in October to come up. Don't assume you're going to get that money.
Nope.
May I add something?
Sure.
I remember that discussion too, and in that discussion, I didn't get the sense that there was any sort of an assumption. I thought it was requested, could they defer the money, and then it would be funded in the fall. I don't understand why there's a shortage in this, because, I felt like it was an agreement to serve the need that we had right then. And then my other issue with it is, when we talked about what was returned to us, we had almost $1 million come back. So I don't understand why this isn't funded, given that earlier discussion. And did that happen here? Was that here?
Yes, I was here.
I just remember, and I remember thinking, oh, okay, they're going to be flexible for the purposes of the budget with, again, I didn't think it was an assumption with an implication or it being implied that those funds would be available in the fall. There was nothing in the conversation that I remember, and I think you said that you watched it, where we said it might not be available. Because it was around busing and things too.
Yeah, the $335,000 was agreed to defer with the assumption it would get picked up in the fall, because otherwise they would need to significantly change busing. They thought that they could float the busing across because the payment was not
Right.
due until the end of October. So there was never an explicit agreement. It was inferred and assumed that if come fall time, things can be put back.
Like, what was the discussion on FinCom? Because they moved the number, or they recommended the number as presented here. So what was the discussion there about this issue, the 335,000?
Actually, there wasn't a lengthy discussion. There were a couple of members that asked about it, and, I told them the same thing that I just told you, and then the committee voted.
But they also weren't at the discussion that we had either, where, we were involved in that in that whole conversation. I have to
Ms.
say,
Steele?
I don't feel comfortable with this, like,
So,
I was just going to say, I actually do remember the conversation as well. So I mean, I think in fairness, the number was 335,000. I think that we should honor that. As far as the 130,000 deficit, I mean, I'm not really interested in discussing that at this point, because I think that's something that would have been done with the FinCom. But if we did kind of have a gentleman's handshake in the spring about them pulling back the 335,000 until the fall, I think we need to honor it.
And I got to look back to see, because I don't have any recollection of this conversation whatsoever. There's a chance I was not present for the meeting, but if you want to make an amended motion.
Yeah, I move that we approve Article 3, amending the account 001-300 school budget supplement from 305,000 to 335,000.
It's for a total of $690,184. Do
Yes, sir.
I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve Article 3 in the amount of $690,184,000, with the amendment going to the school budget supplement, increasing that from $305,000 to $335,000. Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Unanimous. Article 4, the fiscal year 20 water operating budget amendment. FinCom recommended an additional funding source of $216,480 to come from retained earnings.
this is just a correction, that not adding any more to their budget for expenditures. It's just that this was left out as a funding source when they did the budget in May.
Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 4 in the amount of $216,480 to come from water retained earnings.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
And Article 5 is recommended no action. They don't need to appropriate anything else for their budget.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to take no action, or recommend no action on Article 5.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Excuse me. Article 6, the funding for the capital improvements account. Finance Committee recommended that the article be supported in the amount of $1,254,544 to come from free cash. We're not talking about the plan yet. So Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 6 in the amount of $1,254,544 to come from free cash.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
There's a reference to Article 7 in this.
Yeah.
I just want to see what that is before we move on. It says of this amount, $711,144 will be used to fund Article 7 if approved.
That's the capital plan.
So
those would be
if not
projects in-
approved, then does the money stay where it is, or is it still
Stays where it is.
appropriated? Okay.
What's the balance of the capital improvements fund?
The balance, the starting balance was 170,304, and then after the recommendations from the capital committee, it would be short 600, or $540,840. Then with adding the $1,254,544, The balance will be $713,704.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Article 7, this is the fiscal year 20 capital plan amendments. Finance Committee recommended the article in the amount of $1,123,544, with $711,144 coming from the capital fund, and $412,400 to come from the ambulance fund. Anything remarkable in here, Mike?
Couple of things that were delayed from May, work on our server here, that we need an upgrade of our server, and same with the schools. Those are both in there. Also, the e-permitting to add the other departments, selectmen, town clerk,
Yep.
planning. And then Keith had a tree truck that he was looking for. He had 70,000 in there in May, and that was put off. And turns out he did come up with a truck, and 5-year budget will be $53,200 a year for the tree truck.
Okay, so this is year 1 of 5.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Steele?
what's pictometry?
Pictometry is, it's a program that'll do 3D imaging of all the properties in town. And this will be used by the police, fire, building, assessors. So, it's a oblique imagery, it's aerial imagery. They capture it at an angle. It provides natural perspectives, makes objects easier to recognize, 360-degree property views. So if the police, say, get a call that there's an incident somewhere, and the suspect, was seen at this address, they can go on to the pictometry and then determine what's out in that area. It'll help with the assessors in building when they're looking to see if anything has been added to property that hasn't been assessed or someone didn't pull a permit for. They can measure buildings, the size of buildings, right, with the imagery.
This sounds, great. I had a guy in my neighborhood that they had the helicopters up looking, and he was hiding on one of my neighbor's decks, so good to have that.
Is it live, or is it, because it sounds like Google Earth to me?
It's similar, yeah.
Like does it
It's
get
more-
does it get an instant image? So if you're searching for somebody, you have it, or is this like Google Earth where an image is snapped from satellite at some point in time, and that's what we have?
They'll fly the town and take imagery.
Yeah, this isn't coming from a satellite, it's coming from a
Okay.
droid that's,
And how often do they do that? So if we're paying over 6 years, is
Over
it
6
annually that they're gonna take new images?
Let me find it.
$7,000 doesn't seem like enough to fly over the entire town.
No, I know.
No.
Nor does 35,000, to be honest, but I'll take it.
I don't know, the new hot career is the
Yeah.
drone flying,
Yeah,
or pilot, they call them drone pilots, right?
they're pilots.
I wouldn't trust myself.
I don't trust you either, Mike.
I have one and I can't control the thing.
I've got to go out and cut the grass if they're going to be doing this. Can you let us know ahead of time when they're going to be?
Okay. I think I put it in the book.
Just out of curiosity, Mike, who was pushing for this? Was it police and fire, or was it,
Assessors and building and police and fire.
okay?
Is there any sort of projected ROI for this?
Say that again.
Is there any sort of projected ROI for this?
Any projected what?
Return on investment?
I don't know that.
Are there any confidentiality issues? So you made a comment about the assessors going to use it, right? And right now, I mean, residents have the right to say, no, you can't look at my property.
They can look at it from the street, though.
Right, but this is now taking it from the air.
It's not inside, though. I don't think, I think you'd have a hard time.
I don't know.
I mean, your house is out in the public. It's
It's not, no, I wouldn't say
the outside of your house?
the outside
Anyone
is.
can, yeah, nothing's going inside the house. This is just outside.
No, but it's above your house.
Yeah, but to your
Right.
point,
That's still
Google
outside.
Earth can do the same thing.
Right, Google Earth can do the same thing, but again, we're using it for, like, I would imagine the assessor would say, oh, hey, you know what? Like, you have a pool now, you didn't have it before, right? So now your value of your property is going to change. Like, I would think that there may be some confidentiality
supposed to pull
issues
a
in putting
Permit
a,
for that, so it's illegal.
well, I'm just using that as an example, right?
I mean, just to give you some idea of some of the,
I mean, I don't,
Can you check on if there are any legal concerns that we would have?
Well,
We
town
can
council will be
approve
at
it, and
town
then
meeting
the
if that
assessors
concern
may
comes
have
up.
to use it.
I mean, it's the same, like you said, Google Earth is taking images of people, so,
Right, I know, but would we use Google Earth to potentially change somebody's value of property? That, like, again, different uses, implications, I think we just need to make sure that.
Yeah, well, I mean.
If we don't know for sure why the assessors would want it, I mean, I'm assuming that's why they would want it, like, we just need to make sure that we're within our legal rights to do that.
I think that anything that's, outside, I think they'd have a hard time. I guess I don't share the same concern. We will have legal counsel at the town meeting, so if the question were to come up, again, I think when things are out in the open, I'd have huge concerns if it was X-ray or anything like that, but
Well, I mean, think about, like, I'll use my house as an example, right? I have a vinyl fence, you can't see my backyard, so it's not out in the public. Like, you would have to be trespassing on somebody's property to see it, so that's why I'm thinking, could there be some issues? I just want Mike, if you can just email council and have them be prepared to speak to it. Or maybe it's worth having a more defined, use case from each of these departments that we can provide to the townspeople. Overall, I think it's pretty cool, but.
yeah. Okay, so did we get a motion and a second on this yet?
I think you did for discussion.
We did for discussion.
We did for discussion, okay. So, any further discussion on the capital plan?
I have one question. Mike, you mentioned servers that we were delayed in doing in May. Were we delayed because we didn't have the funds?
Yes.
And is that the VMware?
That is the VMware for 139,000 and the school's 162,000.
Okay. And on that line item, it lists professional services. Is that having somebody here that, a part-time
To
IT person?
do that work, it would be the company setting it
Okay.
up.
So
And
it's
then
separate from that.
And we're always nervous here that the electrical is we're gonna have to run wires for plugs and things like that, because we don't have many. So it'd all be for that.
Any further discussion?
So there's as you mentioned before, there's a $100,000 difference between the FinCon recommendation and the requests. So how is that going to get balanced out? We get to reduce the ask by 100,000?
No. The total,
Oh, so we're,
Recommending
sorry, we're
is
adding
set-
more from Article 6, and that's going to help.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
That's
Only
okay.
didn't like.
I do have another question, Mr. Chairman. Under the schools, I'm assuming this is the high school, they're asking for a pickup truck with a plow, and the middle school John Deere tractor.
Yep.
That's not covered under, like, I assume is the highway department? Like that,
No, it's school's truck. So the highway department would be under the highway department, so if Keith wants the bucket truck.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would think why it's for the town, why wouldn't it be used on all town property? Like, why are
Because
there-
each department has their own, correct me if it's
Well,
for the county.
obviously, it's a pickup, so it's not gonna handle large. It's just there to keep things clear during the day on small storms. But Keith does plow the parking lots for them.
Okay, So it's just supplemental?
Right.
Really? And then what
And
about?
the
talking about the
John-
plow.
And the
Okay.
John Deere is, they use that down the middle school for all the walkways they have there all over the place. And that's why they need that. The one they have is will be on municipal bid pretty soon.
Yeah, perfect.
John Deere.
Any further questions? All those in favor of Article 7, the amount of, as discussed?
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Oh, what did I say? Did I?
This is going to wind up on YouTube.
Sorry.
I got a lot going on.
Again, all those in favor?
I'm listening.
Okay.
Get on.
So, yeah, I think we've all had a long day today, huh?
If we can skip 8 for now, because I'm expecting someone here to talk on it.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Move on to Article 10.
you already voted. Oh, I'm sorry, 9, you voted.
Yep.
10 is the article for the land next door.
Yep.
And the Finance Committee on this really wanted to wait.
I'm sorry, Mike, can I ask a question?
Yep.
So I'm just looking at the copy that we had of the list of the articles from last meeting, and one of them came off. I thought they couldn't come off.
They can come off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we can take them off, we just can't add. Okay, good enough.
So this is Article 10. The Finance Committee didn't take any action on it because they wanted to wait until after the Board of Selectmen. This is the article for the possibility of buying the property next door at 78 East Main. And I think I did give you an opinion. As I mentioned to the Finance Committee, town meeting can't buy property. Town meeting can authorize the selectmen to buy property. So if town meeting was to vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to purchase the property, it still would be up to the Board of Selectmen. If you want to wait and have that study done that the building committee is going to do and see if this property is where you want, then you could go out and purchase the property. And I would suggest that it be done borrowing and leave that money that's there for the senior center building project there now.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And there's also no requirement that if we were to recommend, or a town meeting were to recommend, we don't have to spend the money this fiscal year. It can be at any point in the future. Do we have a recommendation as to what level of funding we should,
Well,
or not vote an amount?
you should vote an amount, not to exceed, I would say
Yeah.
not to exceed $1 million. And then it's up to you to make that final decision.
Okay.
So I have some questions and a fundamental issue with this overall, because I thought that we were pretty clear at the last 2 meetings that
Excuse me.
we weren't prepared to make a move to purchase this land. We wanted, I believe, Mary, you asked for an assessment of the value. I think you had asked for more due diligence on the property.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, I would recommend removing this. If we can take articles off, I think we should remove it. I don't think that this is something that we should put in front of the town, have people be confused when we were very clear with the PBC.
You can't take them off now, it's posted now.
So,
So it just would be no action. So
Right.
someone would have to move the article, and if there's no motion on the floor
yeah.
to vote on the article, then it just goes to the wayside.
Yeah, we need to talk about process too and timing. There's no reason why, like, this is our warrant. There's no reason why we should be discussing this after the fact that it's posted and we can't remove things or make changes. Like, this is the second or third thing that we've asked about, that because we are reviewing it after a certain time frame, that we're restricted from doing what we should be doing. Like, I'm not comfortable with this process at all. And certainly not comfortable when I hear from other boards about the timing of it, and they're not taking action because they don't know our position on it, right?
Yep. But, I mean, they can still take action.
But they don't want to. I mean, it was really clear, especially the last FinCom meeting, like 5 minutes of discussion of this process is not correct. They don't feel comfortable on it. You know, they shouldn't have to decide right before town meeting when they find out what our decision is to recommend or not recommend. Right, and this personally, like, we had, you know, we had 2 meetings, so it's been at least a month where we specifically said, when this was brought to us, we specifically said that we wanted options, we wanted more information before we move forward. So this should have been removed back then. Like, I thought we were pretty clear collectively in our discussions about what we wanted and how we wanted that information presented to us and to the town.
Well, from what I remember from that meeting, and I mean, it obviously doesn't matter to me one way or the other, the board wanted to see if the buildings would fit on the property, and then we had the architect prepare a sketch that showed that, and brought that back, and,
But that was just one of the many requests, right? The overall theme was, we didn't feel like we were in a position to even talk about the purchase of it. And I thought that we had to talk about these things in executive session too. So I'm kind of confused why we're having it now and we've had no executive session on this.
So I do think if we get to a negotiation point, then yes, that would be handled in
Well,
executive session.
I mean, part of the executive session is to have some negotiation power, and we're sitting here
Correct.
saying, hey, we're gonna authorize $1 million. Well, you know what, if I'm the seller, I'm not budging on my price, right? So.
But again,
getting
we're not
assessed
forced to
value much
purchase
lower.
it at any price.
I know we're not forced to purchase it, but we're putting it in front of people, and they're going to have a reasonable expectation that we will, at some point, purchase this property.
Unless the seller is unreasonable in the ask for the,
I think $1 million is unreasonable. I mean, but, you know, we don't have any other information to base whether or not it's acceptable because of the potential of the property or because another property may be more money to build on. You know, like, there's so many variables that I just thought, in my opinion, we've had multiple discussions on this, and I'm very surprised to see that it's still here. You know, and now that they're posted and we're hearing it afterwards, and this is our warrant, like, it's unacceptable. That process is just, it should not happen. We should never be in a position where we have something that we've specifically discussed, we've agreed upon while we didn't vote on it. Like, we shouldn't be then left in a position where, well, we have to take no action because it's too late, we had to post this already with recommendations. I mean, it's absurd.
well,
2 different issues. I know, and
Right.
we'll certainly talk about that afterwards, following the town meeting, because we need to fix the process.
well, so, but as the article stands right now, I also am not, and I get that this is just to authorize us to make the purchase. It doesn't require us to, I don't like being married to this particular piece of land at this point. I haven't been comfortable with it since, I feel like we're in a rush to the altar again.
Right.
So, yeah, that is of concern to me. I don't feel, I mean, the risk that we run is that somebody comes in and snaps up what could be an ideal location. Because, is it listed right now? Is Clemmy have it
well,
out there?
he's got a sign out there
Yeah.
for sale.
So that is the risk that we run if we don't take action on it. I'm not overly concerned about that. I'm not going to be pressured into a purchase or held over a barrel. But, you know, here we are with the article on the warrant. Ms. Steele?
Chairman, I don't think we should take an action on it. I think the assessor's appraisal is $179,000, which I know they're always lower than the actual. We don't have a legit real estate appraisal on the property yet. If we put $1 million out there, like Renee said, we're showing our hand at how much money we do have. This particular piece of property has been a little bit rushed. It didn't even come to our attention until September, right?
Correct.
And it does actually, I think, push us in that direction, and maybe the planning board won't look at other properties that may be available. So if they were to come back and say that this is by far the best piece of property, then I would have a different attitude towards it. But we don't really have enough money in town to fund the projects that we have, our own departments. And now we're talking about spending $1 million just to spend it on something that we really don't know what we're going to do with.
Well, and so that's one of my primary concerns, is that we'll spend the money, we don't have to spend the money. I want to make sure that that's clear. This is just authorizes us to do it in an amount. We would have to, and if on borrowing, we wouldn't even have to put the money aside. We would just, so we would authorize it to borrow it. My concern would be, we do go through the process, we pick up the lot, and then it sits vacant for 20 years. Because one, we can't get support for whatever it is we want to put there, or two, it doesn't work out. So I agree. I don't think, I mean, I think that parcel has been for sale since I've been in town. I don't anticipate someone coming in to grab it out from underneath us. So I'm comfortable taking no action on this.
Can we vote against it as opposed to taking no action?
We typically, historically, we don't vote in the negative. We vote either in the affirmative or no action. Again,
But we could motion to vote in the affirmative and I'll say no, right?
no.
No?
So we're either recommending it or taking no action on it.
If we take no action, chances are we're not going to have a lot of discussion about it, which I think is the best thing at this point.
Yeah.
If we actually go for a vote, then people are going to get up and want to discuss it. And really, at this point, I think discussing this piece of property any further is just going to make things more difficult. If we take no action, nobody moves the question, then there really shouldn't be any reason for anybody to get up and discuss
Yeah,
it.
because if Finance Committee decides that they're going to take no action on it as well, someone from the floor would have to move the article at town meeting. So, and I'm not really anticipating somebody doing that. If no action is a position where we're not in support of what the article is, as opposed to voting.
Is it? Because I got the impression, especially on the things like where we said they don't need it anymore, so it's no action, that it just means we don't need it, not that we're against it. Like, I think those are two very different messages.
I mean, you're free to vote on it. I mean, typically, it's as long as I've been involved in these things, no action has been a pretty definitive. Again, if there's no need for the warrant to go and it's trapped on there, but no action. If the Finance Committee takes no action on it and they don't move it on town meeting floor, it's a pretty clear signal that they're not in support of it.
Mr. Chairman, also, I think we really are literally taking no action on this. We all just said this may be.
It could be, yeah,
the property
that's
we
a
want in the
good point.
future. So we may bring it up at another time, but I think what we're saying tonight is, we realize that now is not the time to do it, so we don't want to take any action, but, we reserve that right to do so in the future.
Yeah, I think that's,
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly expect, and I think we talked about this, right, that this would be packaged in. If they decide that this is the best option, that the sale of the property would be packaged in with the total cost of the project. But for any property, right?
yeah, no, agreed.
I mean, that's what I would expect, not that we would borrow it separately.
Right. Just to add my
Two.
2 cents onto the pile, I think if and when the time comes to make a decision on property, I think the full weight of the board should be behind it enthusiastically to drum up support for the community, and I don't think we're there yet. So it feels disingenuous to do anything related to the article, so I think we're all on the same page there.
So, that being said, Chairman would entertain a motion to take no action on Article 10.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of no action on Article 10?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Article 12. It's an authorization for unexpended balance of the Reservoir Street water main project funds for other water main projects. So this is just moving unspent money to be available to other projects for the water department.
And this money was out of their retained earnings, it wasn't borrowed, so.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 12 in the amount of $457,808.63.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 12 in the amount of $457,808.63.
Aye.
Unanimous. Article 13.
The building inspector is here to talk with you. The Finance Committee voted to recommend $522,000 from free cash for the demolition of buildings on Elm Street and the hiring of an engineering and licensed site professional.
Hello, Mr. Carmichael, how are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and members of the board. So I was asked to speak on the environment tonight. Been updating you monthly. Thank you, Renee. So I've been updating the board pretty regularly since June, since Chairman Bradwell asked me to. So I've got a slideshow ready for town meeting, and I'm going to go through it with you now, so if you have any questions, please just stop me as we go. So this is the warrant article number 13. We're going to discuss the timeline, recent events, my concerns with structural and safety issues, and why we're asking for funding. So I think we're all pretty well established with the timeline, but I'll go through it because the public might not be. So 2015, Reed and Barton declares bankruptcy. DEP establishes an escrow account through the bankruptcy court. DEP installed test wells. Low levels of contaminants were found, TCE. Because of that, they contacted the EPA in 2017. EPA cleans up the riverbank in the last fall of 18. During the final stages of that cleanup, the oil sheen was found on site. So now they're back in 19 cleaning up that. I deemed the buildings unsafe in November of last year, and again in June, to reiterate the fact that they were falling down. I had a board of survey formed, and the Board of Selectmen both agreed to demolish the structures last June and July. I received administrative warrant to demolish the buildings by Bristol County Superior Court on August 29th of this year. I also received an emergency waiver from DCAM for the public bid procedures in September of this year. And as I stated, EPA is currently cleaning up the oil on the site. So this is an overview of the site. What we're going to be asking for are the buildings along Cross Street, and I'm going to highlight those better in a few minutes. This slide is for purposes later on to discussion if I have to go back to it. So here's a Google Earth photo. And the next slide is, again, you'll see Cross Street on the right, Elm Street on the left, the riverbank out back at the top of the slide. This is from Atlantic Coast Demolitions. This is what they're going to be taking down, sections 1 and 2 in red and blue at the lower part of the stream. Those are buildings E and F and G out front. Those are the buildings that are an imminent threat and are leading out over Cross Street. Those structures are type 4 construction, timber frame. They have no lateral bracing. The roofs have opened up, and these have a grave concern of coming down in a high wind and a storm situation this coming winter. So they might last 3 months, they might last 3 years, but I can't be sure. So go ahead, sir.
Was the storm last night?
I was out there this morning, as was DEP.
Yeah.
DEP was concerned with these buildings because they wanted to see if the asbestos siding was coming off. And if there was going to be the need for an environmental cleanup. So they were out there first thing this morning like I was.
Yeah.
So they have concerns just like I do.
How'd it do?
We did okay.
Okay.
We did okay, so,
Chris, may I ask you a question?
yes.
If they saw that the siding was coming off, what action would be taken? Would they come in and,
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any more money in their bankruptcy funds because they expended them on the white area up top, K, that doesn't have a number on it. They've expended all their money, so they probably pointed us or whoever the nearest person was. I'm sorry, I can't really speak on that, Renee.
Okay.
I don't know, but it would have to be addressed. So this is just a reference slide. This is on the top of Elm Street looking down Cross. This is the lane of traffic I've closed off. And you can see the roof is up and down and the sidewall is in and out. These buildings are all over the place. Structural concerns. The roofs have opened up. You can see the daylight coming through the roofs. Again, the lack of a horizontal assembly holding these structures and these walls together. This is an intersection. C, you can see the roof is opened up on the more substantial sections as well. So you have rot, you have contaminants, you have all sorts of, this is the most critical slide. Again, I've shown you this in the past. If you look up on the top right, you can see the radical angle that is formed, more of a 90-degree angle, and these buildings are leaning out over the cross street. This is closer towards Elm. Further back down, they're in the opposite direction, where it's buckling out in the middle. So they're in, they're out, they're all over the place. I can't get into the back sections. I don't want to risk my life or anybody else's to go in them. These are the same view at the top of the ramp. Holes are formed in the floor. My apologies for the photo on the left, but these are looking up from the basement through the same holes. You can also see in a clearer view of that slide that the joists have separated from the main girts. Again, deteriorating conditions everywhere within the structure. This is an interior bearing wall under F. You can see how it's buckled under the weight. You can also look past it and see out the sidewalls, because the walls have rotted away and falling apart. These are the ramps that connect the structures. Again, the structures were built in succession over the last 150 years, so they built ramps and hallways connecting them all. And these are all rotting and falling off. So if someone attempted to walk down one of these, they'd fall through 15 feet onto concrete or asphalt. Again, this is the lane closure on Cross Street, looking up Cross Street towards Elm now, and you can see the bulge in the center of the wall.
Where's the bulge?
The bulge is in the center of the wall. I have a laser pointer here, but I don't think it's going to work on the screen because, yeah, so it's in the center of the wall. I'm sorry, I don't have my Ross Pro pointer with me, but it's in the center.
It's like is it the wall facing us, or am I looking like the
You're
vertical
looking up
pop-up?
a vertical wall,
Okay.
and the wall is bowed out in the middle.
So, Chris, maybe for the presentation, you could do like a plumb line to kind of show. It is hard to see. especially
Okay,
depending on what you're on.
the pointer will work on the screen at the high school,
Yep.
but I agree with you, maybe I can
That way,
exaggerate
you just
that.
drop it down from end to end. and then-
Okay,
Or
Oh.
take it off of presentation mode and do it with the mouse. That might, I mean.
all right, I'll make sure that it works prior to the meeting with the laser pointer.
Yeah, I've been there. I know how much it's blowing up, so I just want to make sure that we're conveying that to everybody.
Okay, I'll work on that, thank you for pointing that out to me. This is the rear of the building, again, more exterior conditions that are dilapidated and falling apart. This was where the old chimney is, this is where the EPA is currently working. Rear section of building F, the wall bulging out again in the back of the structure. We have a partial roof collapse above that. To the right, you'll see the X's on all the doors. That's from the fire department, has marked those. There's no entrance to any first responders to go in these buildings. That's how dangerous they are. This is a typical wall detail. So you see the transite siding on the outside. It's being held up by rotted sheathing. The transite is where the asbestos is. You see that the interior of the wall frame is all rotted. It's insect damage. This is a typical detail that I'm seeing throughout. So these are a shell. These are ready to come down. And if they do come down with the transite on it, it's going to be a small environmental disaster. So that's our concerns. Safety concerns. Again, I have youth in the building. They've been there throughout. I can't keep them out. There's 200 doors and windows. I can't keep them all boarded up. I board it up, they rip it off, or they find a hole in the wall and they go through it. I have someone in the steel and copper. He's worked his way through the entire site in the last year and a half that I've been here. He's now in the electrical panel pulling the fuses. You can see the pipe wrap that he takes off the copper and throws on the floor. He's disassembled the sinks on the second floor. Oh, I was asked to speak on liability under Mass General Law 21E. Because the town has not taken the property, ownership of the property, we will not trigger this liability. I have acquired administrative warrant from the Bristol County Superior Court to enter, demolish, and make safe the property. And that it not only goes through my office, but through the Board of Health and the Fire Department as well to enter, because they're all safety officers. Town is not eligible for emergency funding. I misspoke on this on the meeting last week. I said if I didn't get this funding, I could probably go after emergency funding, but I had looked in that in the past. It was one of those 2 a.m. moments. I was like, oh, I misspoke. I have to put it on a slide, so here it is. I'm going to end the town's slideshow here. On this, people were asking about the testing of the groundwater. There has been testing in 2015 and then more testing in 2017 by the DEP. Again, some low levels of contaminants were found, but now they're not finding anything. Not a reportable amount, not an actionable amount, so they're not taking any further action on these wells, so it's a good sign for us. And then I could bring you up a little further, this is where I'm gonna end for the town, but I can bring you up to date now. The abatement of Building K, that white area at the beginning of the slides, this is out towards the riverbank, this is them taking the asbestos off. This is the demolition 2 weeks ago, they took the structures down, and then this was 2 days ago. Now they're removing the slabs and they're getting ready to move the soil. So I just wanted to give you those slides so you'd know where this project stood at this time. They have uncovered a 10,000 and a 20,000 gallon underground storage tank just to the right of the slide, and they've already been encapsulated with concrete, so it's a very good sign. The EPA was actually jumping up and down, so now it's just probably some residual oil that's in the pipes that are on the ground, so that they're looking to start moving that next week. And that's as much of an update that I can give you. We are gonna start hearing about these stockpiling of materials on the hill, on the old septic system, on the western part of the site. This was what the EPA told me that they were gonna do, and I accepted it, because they processed all the material, they've left some clean material that's gonna have to be trucked away, so we are gonna hear from the neighbors, where they're already complaining about it. So, we're gonna have to fence that off, but it is clean wood and some vinyl, and some riprap concrete, and some stone and stuff. But it's all been tested and it's clean, so we're safe.
Who is responsible for hauling that off? EPA or us?
Us.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those, yeah.
Who's responsible for removing that? Looks like it's us.
We're responsible?
Well, we don't own the site, but we're gonna hear about it. So I have money in the funding, just for the removal of the buildings on Cross Street. We'll have to readdress this as we sum up the rest of the site. So we're looking for grant money, and we'll address that after this. But the town warrant just includes the buildings on Cross Street and nothing else. So this is just started happening within the last 7 to 10 days. So it's gonna be a future problem that we're gonna hear about. So just letting you know now.
Chris,
Yep.
the demo of the buildings on Cross Street, included in that is removal of all the material that.
Yes, the abatement, the removal, and then, per the LSP's recommendations, we're gonna keep the slabs in place to encapsulate it, so we have no runoff. It's also gonna help us, keep it in a degraded state so that we can re-improve the riverbank at a future date.
Ms. Steele?
Oh, actually, I have a question for when he's done.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. I know we're all beyond annoyed that we're having to spend all this money on a piece of property that we don't even own. We don't own the property. Can we put a lien on it
Yes, that's
Is there a lien
exactly what we're
already
gonna do, to recover the money.
in case it ever sells?
So that's exactly what we'll do, is put a lien on the property for the 522 that we're gonna be asking for, to recover
So
that.
for everything we've spent, we'll put the lien on? Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's a little bit.
Stelling?
I have a process question. So we discussed this in executive session, and I think the fact that now that this is on the warrant, is there a reason why we're not releasing those minutes?
I'm sorry, which,
For the executive session where we talked about this property, and we specifically, and I actually thought about this before, and I should have brought it up, it's when you were here after the court order. Because in that, it was the July 25th executive session. And I asked because that was one of the items that we talked about then.
yeah, we're going to discuss that with the town council to see
Okay.
if we can release those yet. So we'll
What
have
was
it,
the date?
was that June 27th?
July 25th.
July 25th.
Everybody all set with the slideshow?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Carmichael?
I have some.
Yeah. Ms. Daly?
This might be a question for us too, but certainly need your guidance. So you talked about the asbestos on the outside, right?
Yes.
I don't know, you didn't call them shingles, you called them something else.
I'm sorry, there's some oversound.
I know, I'm sorry. The siding on the building, is that?
Transite siding,
Yep,
yes.
is that the only place where the asbestos is?
So that's where the majority of it is. There's a very little bit amount on the inside, so there's some pipe wrap, And again, this goes back to the bankruptcy court's money the DEP spent on an assessment on the buildings. So there's some pipe wrap in the middle of the buildings, very little amounts. There was some VCT, some flooring that had some asbestos in it, that was removed. There's some gypsum panel, there's very little. It's mostly an open factory, so there's very little inside of it, just the transite on the outside, and the hot mop roof that's on, that's the concern. That has, again, some asbestos in it.
So I guess my question is, I mean, to your point, right, this is an awful lot of money that we're paying for a site that we don't own. When we talked previously about the lien, I mean, if we put a lien on it, it's has some disadvantages too, right, in us trying to sell it or move it to a different owner, whatever. So do we have an opportunity to take the asbestos off, work to get grant money, and then, see how that goes, and then demolish it separately?
So the imminent threat, so the process I'm looking at is to remove the imminent threat 1 and 2, leave sections 3, 4, and 5 that are much more substantial construction-wise. It's a more of a ordinary construction, a type 3 and a type 2, non-combustible. So it's substantial, but it's older. You'll have several years. We are applying for assessment grants. We should hear on the Mass Development Assessment Grant that we applied for in September. We'll hear in November on that. We also have another round of funding coming up in early December through the EPA. We're going to be going through the grant writers class in late October, and we're going to be filing for that in early December. And then we have another round of funding in March. So yes, we're going to be applying for it all to supplement this and to continue on. So again, phase 1 would be to remove the imminent threat, and then take the assessment, if we get the assessment money, to see what's underneath it and look at that, and then again, come back to you and give you more information, and this board will make that decision, so.
So what would the options be if we didn't have the full funding? I believe at some point we spoke about extending the fence so that if the buildings came down.
Yes, we're gonna have Atlantic put up their fence on the, between sections 3 and 2 and 1, and because you're gonna have an open pathway into the buildings. And I assume we're gonna have to do more, because where they've taken down K, there's open doors now. I mean, I've gone in and boarded up some and closed some doors up, but there are some concerns. So yes, we're gonna have to extend the fence, and we're gonna have to do more boarding up and spend more money on just securing the building. I have to secure the building, I'm required to.
Do we have any signs posted, like saying, do not enter, safety?
Yes, there are no enter signs, and.
But do we tell people why? Like, so I'm just thinking about people who are walking on the property and decide, hey, this looks like a good idea. Like, can we post something that says, do not enter contaminants or asbestos or whatever, building stability, I don't know. Something like that to be more informative, so maybe people will think about before they go into the buildings, other than just like a...
I have limited funding in my board-up fund, but I'm willing to spend that as this board seems fit. So tell me how you want me to proceed.
I think the official, how many, how much signage do we have there right now?
We have some do not enter signs. We have, no trespassing signs. I mean, we could definitely plaster and put some more up. It wouldn't hurt, but.
I mean, I'm thinking like a hazmat sign or something like that, because, and again, this is long-term, right? Like 3, 4, and 5, if we move forward with 1 and 2, and 3, 4, and 5 are there, we're not taking immediate action because the imminent threat is gone, right? But that still doesn't.
You still want to
mean
look
that
at it to
we
remove
wanna-
the blight. So again,
Right.
That's, again, we'll take it down, we'll put the fencing up, we'll put signs on the fencing, absolutely.
Can I ask you too, what is the cost, like the itemized cost? What's the abatement versus the demolition?
They gave me kind of group funding. I don't have that number in front of me, but they gave me abate demo was one number, and then to remove the slabs was another. So that's why they priced it in the 5 different sections for me. So I do have that breakdown. I don't have it with me now.
Okay, you can provide that to us though.
Again, but they didn't break out the abatement versus the demo. So, no, I don't have that number. And, you know, sometimes they'll assess these buildings on site. If it's too fragile to do the abatement, they'll take it down en masse in what they call hut and truck it out en masse. So it's tough to say. It's probably a daily decision on site how they're gonna take it down.
Mr. Units, have police increased patrolling around the building when we see that we still have people coming in? And I know it's hard you'd have to catch them at the exact moment.
Right, I know they're on Elm Street all
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
either in the parking lot across the street or parked at the driveway entrance when the EPA isn't there.
They actually increased the patrolling in the last couple of weeks, because that parking lot across the street wasn't secure. So the police did increase their patrolling so that we could secure the parking lot for them. We have fencing up now so that the EPA can start using that site, the parking lot across the street.
And I know we mentioned before, like CCTV, if there are opportunities for that or some sort of like motion detection, anything like that. I mean, it's minimal.
I might remind you that this is a 175,000 square foot structure, it's multi-level, and you don't want anybody going in there to chase anybody that's.
Oh, no,
that's
no,
within-
not to chase them, but if we had something on the exterior of the buildings, to be aware that there is the potential for somebody to enter them. I'm just,
Are we allowed to put the security cameras on an unowned building? Does that
I have
open
a
us up to
warrant
any?
to enter the site and make it safe and demolish.
do we own the telephone poles that are sitting around that building?
No. Verizon or Comcast, right? Yeah. Yeah, town doesn't own the telephone poles. Okay, any further questions for Mr. Carmichael? Peter?
Yes, bringing up fire concerns, there were 2 fires that took place at the Old Talbot Hill Mills back in May 1978, which 2 injured and $80,000 blaze at a mill at the Old Talbot Hill Mill complex in the Woodham Elm Street in Norton back in Tuesday, May 30th, 1978, and also on June 22nd, 1988, on a Wednesday in which a fire that sent fumes that sent firefighters to Surrey Hospital.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome, man.
Any further questions for Mr. Carmichael?
I think that's a great presentation.
Yeah,
Thank you, Chris.
you continue to do a great job with this difficult situation, so we
Appreciate
do
your support.
appreciate the efforts, and I know it's frustrating for you as well, so.
Through the town manager's office, thank you.
Well, Chris.
Okay, so, Chair will entertain a motion to recommend Article 13. It's kind of a dubious number for this project, isn't it?
He already
No, Mary
cursed me.
13, like-
Yeah, Elm Street, it's this, it is.
I don't know, we're ever gonna get rid of this.
Yeah. So Chair will entertain a motion to support Article 13, or recommend Article 13, in the amount of $522,000 to be taken from free cash.
I'm sorry, Mike, I do have one more question.
Let's move it let's get the motion in a second, then we'll
Yep.
further
So
discuss.
moved.
Second.
Further discussion.
Okay, Chris, in this, you talk about, it's not only the amount to take down the buildings, but it's also for the LSP. Can you talk about that a bit?
So the LSP, the licensed site professional, is mandated by the state to be on site. So we need them to read the EPA's reports, the DEP, and to give us advice as to how to proceed. So, yes, there's 30,000 in there that covered them for the last 6 months, so we've carried another 30,000 to cover them for the next 6 months.
So they've only been working for us for 6 months?
Again, my involvement in the project has been limited prior to the last 6 months, so, yep.
So, Mike, can you speak to that?
Well, when was the date,
No, so
Chris?
they've been here for the year and a half that I've been here.
Right.
So, yes, so they've been
Whenever-
here for a year and a half, so.
Whenever the DEP found the contaminants on site in 2018, whenever that was, they've been on since then.
So what are they doing differently in this next 6 months so initially, we signed a contract with them for $15,000. We ended up spending at the time of the last meeting, 24, when we asked for another 5, right? So that's over a longer time period. So what's changed in the scope of the project that now, within a 6-month time period, we're paying $30,000 for?
So CEC is heavily involved in the grant writing process. They know all the players on the EPA and mass development. They've actually introduced us to a lot of the people. They're keeping us in touch with when these grant writing seminars are coming up. They're advising us on to how to proceed with the EPA and the DEP. So I'm in touch with CEC weekly, if not daily at times.
But they were doing that before. I mean, they helped us with the 2 brownfields grants, right? The applications for those. So I'm just trying to understand, I mean, if we paid them $30,000 over a year or a year and a half, and now we're looking to pay them $30,000 over 6 months.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much we paid them.
Yeah, and it might be more than 6 months. It was a guesstimate to keep them on site for so maybe 6 months is wrong. I might have misspoke on that. So it's just 30,000 to continue the services for this phase.
And we're not giving them just a check for 30,000,
No,
it's
it's
as
they bill us.
billed,
This
yeah.
is in an
Yep.
account so that we can move them forward and have the money there to pay them as it comes in.
Yep, so this is an educated guess, Renee, to make sure that we have funds available.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, if any money isn't expended,
It goes into the general, back into free cash.
And it looks like they became involved around May 1st, 2018, based on what I'm seeing.
you can do the other. Let's tell Chris
So
he's
about
got
a year
another
and a half.
Oh.
article.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 13 in the amount of $522,000 to come from free cash? Please.
Aye.
Aye, and I'm just gonna add a note to that. As I mentioned, I think when we first went through the article, this should have been separated into 2. We should have had a cost for the demolition of the site, and then we should have had have a separate cost for the services of CEC. CEC?
It's easy.
CEC, yeah, CEC.
Just thinking I have the wrong acronym.
Okay, moving on to Article 14, General Bylaws, amend Chapter 135, Streets and Sidewalks.
This is,
So I've asked for this to be inserted. There used to be a fence viewer's office. He'd go out and look and see if it was too close to the road. We need something so that we can regulate it. It's just a rule of thumb that we were using, 10 feet, so not to create sightline obstructions. This is pretty standard and typical in most other bylaws in towns. Council helped me with the last second phase of that to include other structures. So it's basically just to prevent people from blocking sightlines and putting their fence right up next to the road. And this is, we try to enforce it now, but we have nothing in writing. This would put it in writing for us. It was taken right from the sign bylaw, the zoning bylaw for the signs, which requires it to be 10 feet, so that's the same.
Would the fences or anything that would be in the setback zone now be grandfathered in, or would they have to?
Yeah, no, it's a date moving forward. It just gives us a right to, someone wants to push back, I can say, look, it's here in writing.
Okay.
Does this also apply to like plantings?
It could, as council has worded it, that second part of that, so yes. If we're having a problem with a sight line, I could go out and talk to the homeowner or business owner, property owner.
Any further discussion?
It covers other things than fences?
As it's worded in the second part, I believe, I don't have it in front of me.
I mean, the second part just says, or shall be erected to obscure vehicular sightlines, but it still is no fence.
You want
No
this?
person shall cover any obstruction.
Any obstruction, yeah.
It's pretty broad.
Any obstruction.
Oh, but that's not what we're asking to change, so that's already there?
It's already there.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 14 as written in the annual fall town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Move on to Article 20. This is the OPEB. Fonda, you want to just give a quick primer on that?
Yep. So the OPEB is other post-employment benefits. It really is the health insurance for retired employees. And our actuarials now say our OPEB liability is 61 million technically.
What do we have in the fund?
Right now, our balance in the fund is 375,370.94. Now, if you put the recommended, right now, I'm sorry, our balance is 483,858.
So we'd be close to $500,000.
It's actually, the interest, we've got so much money in there now that we're actually starting to get some interest. So 18,487.17 in interest this past fiscal year. So,
And just to give some perspective on this, there's only one town in the Commonwealth that has fully funded their OPEB liability, and that's Wellesley, and they did it with an override. So it's not abnormal for the OPEB to be this far off, and so this isn't unique to us.
so the Finance Committee every year has made sure that they go up slightly to show the actuarials that we're making an effort in putting money in.
Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 20 in the amount of $95,000 to be taken from free cash.
So moved.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
What's the percentage on that? It's 5%, right? Or is that stabilization with 5%?
5% on stabilization.
Okay. All right.
OPEB will be, the goal is really, you want to try and get to where you have enough in the fund so that your interest is generating enough to cover a year.
Okay. I'm just trying to think back. So I think we did 90K last time, so now it's 95, so it is.
Yep, and 85 the year before.
Great.
Did we do the 90,000 in the spring?
I think so.
No,
No?
it would have been the fall last year. We always do it in the fall.
I feel like we talked about
I
this,
will
though.
recall that too. We don't have to get into it. I'm just.
Oh, okay. Okay,
No,
so,
but I mean, would we, if we did it in the spring, would we do over $180,000 in a year?
probably not.
No, because my recommendation actually was higher. I was looking to, last year we put 3% of the free cash in, so I was looking to put 3% in. So, but the Finance Committee didn't want to put that much in, so they cut it back to the 95. 3% would have been up over 100,000, like 125, I think, or something in that area. But
Okay. And we're absolutely positive we didn't do this in the spring?
yeah,
I don't see it listed, so.
yeah, no, we never do it in the spring.
So, motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Article 21, stabilization. Chair would, I actually want to give a quick primer on this as well, so just, yeah.
Stabilization, the town should have 5% of their budget in a stabilization fund. So we should be up around 3 million. For a number of years, the town was reluctant to put money into stabilization. Then in 2014, they started, the Finance Committee really started addressing it. And so right now, we're at $2,045,524 in our stabilization account.
Say that one more time, Mike, sorry?
Yep, $2,045,524.
Thanks.
And last year, we put in 300,000. And the Finance Committee recommendation this year, which would be 10% of our free cash, is $418,181.
And what's the benefit to being at 5% of the budget?
When we go out to borrow and the actuarials look at what we have in our stabilization account, they want to see us closer to that 5%. And also, they want to see that our unrestricted funds, we have like between 5 and 11% every year. So money that we have in free cash and stabilization and capital.
So Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 21 in the amount of $418,181 to come from free cash.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the only outstanding that we have now are the zoning bylaws. Planning board still going on?
You want to talk on the cemetery rules and regulations at
Sure.
all?
What about 19?
We just did 19. Oh, wait, no, we haven't done 19 yet.
Okay.
Is,
No,
Are
I
we
would
waiting?
hold off on, I think Bob's planning on coming.
yeah, I think he's planning on coming in,
That's what I
yeah.
was asking, what are we waiting for?
Okay.
So Article 8,
Where are you?
that's the cemetery rules and regulations.
Okay. I don't know if you've had time to look at the cemetery rules and regulations. They hired a consultant to work with them that's done this in a number of communities, and then they went to town council to review. And the regulations they had were totally outdated, and so when they did the new cemetery, they came up, decided they really gotta get up to speed on where more people are being cremated, and they had nothing in that area. So being able to sell lots in advance, how they can sell lots, how many people can be buried in a plot. So they really had to get a lot of definitions ironed out and get this. But the Finance Committee also did no action on this. They didn't have anyone really from the Cemetery Commission to explain, and they were waiting also for the board to take a vote.
Okay, so I guess I would open this up to any discussion.
Do we have somebody here to represent it now?
No, I think Bob is planning on doing that too, so
Oh, all right,
you want to,
okay. Well,
have you discussed the zoning bylaws at all?
nope.
I mean, I can just go over generally. with
Yeah,
you.
that would be good. Let's,
Just-
yeah. I mean, I think we've had some brief discussions on them, and, but nothing of any substance.
So, 15?
Yep, it's 15.
15 is, this, Paul developed this, Paul Giuseppe, the town planner. And this is adding a lot of definitions that weren't in our bylaws before. And it's also working with the definition of accessory buildings and family child care facilities, group homes, nursing homes, and they also worked on the chart of where they can be located. So that's something that Paul worked on with the board.
With the planning board?
Yep.
So all these definitions were missing?
All these, anything underlined
Oh.
is new.
And do we know why FinCom took no action on it?
What's that?
Do we know why
I think-
Finance Committee took no action?
Because they didn't have a report from the planning board. Paul was away and they hadn't got the report yet, so they're waiting until they get that from the planning board and possibly on Monday night.
I mean, it seems pretty clear cut to me. I think that these are certainly valuable to have and defining in writing so we have a little bit more clarity on things.
I read A and I wonder how you can have something more than what that's saying.
I'm sorry,
It's right under the, at the beginning of the article, it says no accessory building or structure shall have a floor area that's greater than 50% of the floor area of the livable ground floor area of the principal building. Like that, to me, is like somebody having a shed that's the size of their house, right? It's trying to limit that. It just, you read it and it seems kind of silly, if I'm interpreting that the right way. I mean, I've always wanted a shed the size of my house.
she shed?
Exactly.
I think that a good possibility of why that came up. I know someone was looking to put a huge
Garage, yeah, that's. that was-
How many bays was it? I forget.
It was like, it was ridiculous amount of square
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
Like to run a
3,000 seems
business
like
out of
really
there?
low.
Well, that was the fear.
yeah, it could be concern.
And I think that's
They
where
were.
that came
gonna
up.
go, I think,
And was that the house on South Worcester Street where had the metal building that was used for some sort of commercial use, that had the big fire? That has since been taken down. I don't know if this could be as a result of that as well.
Are any of these appealable to like the ZBA? If there was a special reason why somebody needed an accessory building at 61% of their.
Yeah, everything,
They could-
yeah,
Okay.
sure, yep.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this is terrific to have. It looks like Paul did a good job, as he typically does, so I personally, I think this is great to add in. I'd be very much in support of this. So that being said, Chair would entertain a motion to recommend,
I'm sorry, can you just give like just 2 minutes on this?
Sure.
Because I just wanted to see the part about the childcare.
I think I'd like to hear an overview before we vote on it.
is Paul planning on coming in here tonight?
I'll text them and see how they're doing, or you'd have to wait until Monday too, when they present to the finance.
Are we posted for Monday?
Yeah.
Okay.
As we also had asked somebody from the planning board to be present to talk about the petitioner article for Mr. Cohen.
Yes,
Well, 'cause
and I
it's-
think that they're all planning on, the planning board meeting's still going on, so
Too bad they weren't up there.
we would've heard the whole thing.
That's true.
And it would've been someone's birthday, so even better.
We could have brought cake.
So these are just clarifying our definitions of what the things are. I know we've had issues with boarding
Yep.
houses before, so, okay. We're not actually changing anything.
Well, no, we're adding it all in. Right, it doesn't exist right now.
Right, but yeah.
I mean, like, one of my questions would be, is this pretty standard? Like, is this pulled from some sort of a standard reference guide on how assisted living residences should be defined and the criteria of them?
Is the door locked?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, like I look at the one for boarding house, and that seems like a very brief description that could apply to many, many things. It could be applicable to like Airbnbs, it could be a hotel, it could be
Right.
anything.
Oh, do we have B&Bs in here?
I said Airbnb, but,
But that would fall into the boarding house.
yeah.
Was the door locked?
The door is locked.
Someone have their card?
It's in my car.
I have
Mine
mine.
is too.
You want me to put there's a plug out there.
Actually, you know what? Mine's in my car, too. Because my,
It just seems like that boarding
So-
house one in particular is
I almost said it. I
very
almost saying that.
succinct.
By the way.
I don't know if that's by,
We're real
assuming it's
smart,
by
keeping them in
intent,
the
but it just seems like.
Yeah, because I think that's a wide net to capture, because again, like, the sharing economy continues to go. You know, we have unique exposures in town with the college and with
Yep.
some of the other occupancies that we have. I'd be okay, I mean, if the pleasure of the board is to have this discussed with Paul, if he's going to be presenting it to the Finance Committee, we are posted for Monday night at 6 o'clock before town meeting, so if we want to push it till then, again, I don't want to do too much business before the town
Right.
meeting. And this seems, in my, read-through on these, it all points to general law and to, I feel comfortable with how it's written.
Yeah, I think part of our issue that we referred to earlier was that a lot gets dealt with in the hour before a town meeting, and it's a mad dash.
I agree.
Earlier run, so I would,
The in-home
I'd be in
care
support of
under the-
voting on it tonight.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Anyone else have any reluctance to vote on it tonight?
I'm sorry.
Anybody have any reluctance to vote on this tonight, or any concern about?
I mean, I would just like the opportunity to ask questions, right? Like, I'm reading one of them now, the Early Education and Care Program, and there's, like, midway through, it talks about including in-home care, homemaker services, like, And then, but yet we have one that says family child care home. Like, I don't know, this seems to,
difference, yeah.
yeah, it seems like early education and care program is going beyond the scope by including,
Would, like, for example, temporary shelter care programs, I mean, would, if I was a foster parent, would that fall under
Where are you seeing that?
early education and care program?
we need to get page numbers on these.
So it's, no, it wouldn't, because non-residential.
So then why would it talk about including in-home care, homemaker services? Like, in-home care is residential, right?
It's non-residential for the attendees of the
Correct.
program. So it's not like a military school or something like that, right? If you want to put a toddler in a military school, I guess.
No, you never know.
I like that family's in here. We didn't know what that was. Like, then I wonder too, like, what are the implications? So on family, it says a family shall not include 4 or more persons not related to the remaining members of the family within the second degree of kindred. Like, do we then have some sort of bylaw that says you can't have a certain number of non-family members living with you? Right, like, what's the implication of putting that definition in there?
Yeah, I don't really like that.
That seems, yeah.
Yeah, what if I wanted to,
The definition of family.
What page is that on?
It's in Article 15.
It's one of the biggest things that we deal with all the time is people calling up complaining that someone is running an illegal rooming house in their neighborhood. And there already is a definition in the bylaw about that. So,
I still don't get the definition, I gotta tell you.
This would be, you know, if people have employees from, let's say, people who come in to work, and they're all staying in one house, all of a sudden you get 15 people living in a house that's intended for 4 or 5 people, based on the septic and bedrooms and all that. It's to prevent, and then, so they can't say, well, they're my family, and it's, I just have a big family. At least that's how I take it, is that the intent of it, Mike?
and I think, and Paul says he's on the way, he's going to
Okay.
be here. I think is a state
Yeah.
a state law that,
Is the town going to get into the business of checking family trees to verify statements? I don't know how that gets enforced.
it's something that we have to deal with all the time.
I understand that. I just, from a practicality standpoint, how do you prove that Mike and I aren't related if we're living together?
I'm not tall enough. All right, let's, is Paul's coming in, so he can provide some insight on that. Let's just kind of get a quick overview on Article 16, petition of Dylan Ribeiro.
Article 16 was a petition article, and on this article, this was looking to allow duplexes in a commercial property, and the planning board found a defect in the article itself, and where it's a petition article, they can't change it. And so they voted not to recommend this article.
Planning board did,
Yes.
and Finance Committee did as well.
The chairman's
take-
here now. The chairman of the planning board is here now.
Oh. Would you like to come up and discuss some of these, after you've been warmed up for, at your meeting? Discuss some of these articles on the warrant, please?
Good timing.
Steve, right now, we're talking about the petition article from Dylan Ribeiro on duplexes and commercial.
Okay.
And I believe you voted not to recommend.
For that one, we voted to take no action. I'm sorry, we didn't vote. We just decided to take no action on
No
that.
action.
Because it was going to be, we believe it was going to be amended at town meeting
Okay.
by the petitioner.
So we feel that he will still
Oh, yeah.
move it on town meeting floor?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Can you give us a little color around it, though, as to what it's,
The original petition was very, very, I don't know what the best word is, broad. There was no dimensional requirements, anything specific, so that's what we were looking for.
Do you have a copy of it?
of the petition?
Yeah.
You don't have it?
We did get a copy.
We definitely did get a
Hold on,
copy
I
of
might
it.
have
I can go make copies if I need it.
Hold on, I might have
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't even really need to see it, 'cause I think my opinion on this would be, even if I were to see it, I probably wouldn't understand it. I'm
Right.
not on the planning board, right?
Right.
And like Mr. Hornsby said, if he's going to amend it because there's something wrong with it at town meeting, then I don't even think we need to discuss it.
Discuss
I
it.
would make a motion that we would take this on as well.
Motion?
So moved.
No, we have a motion. Anyone, second?
No, second. Sorry.
So we have a motion and a second to take no action on Article 16. Any further discussion?
I do have a question. In this reference, like, I'm reading this to say that right now we have, in the residential use, we allow duplex dwellings and multifamily, and what this is asking for is to also allow those types of dwellings in a commercial zone district by special permit.
Correct.
Okay,
But there were no,
parameters or
yeah, there were no,
criteria.
I mean, we want to make sure that, setbacks and building sizes are included.
I mean, what would be, if I can just ask in general, why would we want duplex or multifamily dwellings in a commercial zone district? Like, commercial is commercial, that's not, like, those to me are very clear residential.
Yeah, well, it would be more towards the village commercial, not the commercial.
And do we specifically have a village commercial zone?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so.
I apologize, I just came from the meeting where we discussed this, so
No,
I'm,
that's okay. So like, one of the expectations would be that this says in a village commercial zoning district, not
correct.
commercial. Okay.
So we've got a motion and a second to take no action on Article 16 as written in the warrant. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor of taking no action on Article 16?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. And then Article 17, petition of Dylan Ribeiro to amend Chapter 175, Article 3, zoning map districts and the town zoning map adapted thereunder by changing the commercial, from commercial zoning district to village commercial in an area of land along Mansfield Ave. So I'm assuming this is where it's going to change for the duplexes to put them from.
It would be in the Zone 3. You don't have the map there with you, do you?
No.
The way the zone, Paul can probably describe this a little better than I am.
Paul DiGiuseppe, Planning Director. This was a proposal to rezone the property along Smith Street from commercial to village commercial. So there were roughly about 15 properties, so that's the change. So primarily, one of the big differences between village commercial and commercial is village commercial does allow residential primarily by special permit, whereas currently commercial does not allow residential.
And planning board was in
We
support
were
of
in
this?
support of that, yes. Right now, the current residences are non-conforming, so they're actually in violation of what should be there. So changing it to village commercial would allow for those residences. And we got a question from the Finance Committee on, the map isn't here, if the bank was included in that, and it isn't, which would make the bank non-conforming.
So I'm sorry, can you just say again, what is
Sure.
included in that?
There should be a list of I apologize, I don't have it in front of me.
Here.
A list of the physical addresses. I believe there's at least 3 vacant lots on it. And the
Is
remainder
there
is
any way to
residences.
see it on a map?
Yep, right here.
Do you have a map?
So the bank, is that Mansfield Savings Bank? Or
Yes.
Northeastern Savings Bank?
Savings Bank.
Northeastern Savings Bank, okay.
Oh,
So-
this doesn't help me. Can somebody explain what this is?
The big area is.
No,
Roach
please
Brothers.
come over.
So in that area would be where it would change. Right now, it's commercial, and these are all residences, and there's a few empty lots. So they're zoned, they're non-conforming, so changing it from commercial right now to village commercial would put them in conformance and allow for any village commercial.
Okay, and this is like the Roach Brothers Plaza?
I
I'm just trying to figure out like where on this map we are.
believe the bank is right up,
Like right
I'm
there?
upside down here.
That's the bank, and then this, or that, so this is.
Okay.
So they have the exit, the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Housing, and then that's Smith Street that comes out on the other
Okay.
side of the residence.
I think
This
that's
cul-de-sac,
right
I
there.
believe, is this little thing here. Is homes as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So Steve, that whole area is now commercial?
Yes, right now it is, yeah.
How does homes get built in a commercial zone district?
That's an excellent question.
They-
I hear that a lot. Does
Unless
anybody
they
have
were
an
there-
excellent answer?
They might have been there first. I don't know.
It could have, the zones could have changed over time. I'm not sure when that was changed particularly.
I look back, the zoning maps from the early 90s, late 80s still had this area zoned commercial. So I'm trying to think about some of the property that I saw. I think a lot of these homes were just built before then, so they would have been grandfathered.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a motion second on this one? I don't think we do. So Chair would entertain a motion to recommend Article 17 as written in the warrant.
So moved.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Did you want to go back to 15?
Yeah, 15. So we had some questions as to what the intent is with adding these definitions to the zoning bylaws. And specifically, one, the definition of family, just, if you could put some clarification around that,
Sure.
and what the intent is of this?
Sure, the primary intent was, that there are a lot of definitions missing in our zoning bylaw. And it creates gaps between our zoning bylaw, our building codes, and our health codes. So I worked with the building commissioner and the health agent to identify those uses that they felt that were needed, that we should use in the zoning code, which would help us with things, understanding, like, okay, if we get a proposal in, is a special permit required? What's difficult right now is we only have a handful of definitions, so oftentimes we're just going, okay, what's the closest match? Which isn't the ideal way, but that was the reason why we wanted to add these definitions. So most of the definitions come right out of state statutes. Now, the planning board did make some amendments to its modifications, their improvements to it. So that's where these were, but the reason we initiated it was to try to fill in those gaps. And in doing so, as we added those uses, then we needed to add those uses to the use table to determine, are they approved by right, are they approved by special permit, or are they not allowed in different zoning districts?
So, a valid question was brought up that most of these definitions speak to a structure or a usage.
Right,
except there's one that kind of hangs out there with family.
Okay, right. Well, the best explanation I can get for the definition of family is the state has a number of definitions out there that will talk about not just only family, but certain thresholds that if they get exceeded, certain things would happen. Like, for example, if you have more than 5 people, non-related people, beyond second of kin, I believe, sprinklers